Attach roof panels to frame. Do not attempt this part of the assembly in windy conditions. You'll need at least 4 people and 3 ladders for this part of the assembly. Assign one person to remain in the middle throughout the roof assembly to support the roof panels. Have 3 people lift a large roof panel assembly with spacers up and over the long beam assembly so the middle center rafter fits into the center roof to beam bracket on the mid post. Loosely attach the center roof to beam bracket to the roof panel with a hex bolt. Next, lift the second large roof assembly without spacers over the other long beam assembly. Once again, the middle center rafter should fit into the center roof to beam bracket. You may need to have the person in the middle push up and adjust the panels so that the holes align. If you're still having trouble getting the holes to align, have someone push in on the long beam assembly from outside of the assembly. Once the holes align, loosely attach the bracket with a hex bolt. Attach the 2 large roof panel assemblies together at the top with 4 hex bolts. To install the roof to beam brackets on the inside of the assembly, have someone push up on the large roof panel assembly from the outside and 2 people pushing up at the peak. Have someone attach the roof to beam brackets to the center rafter first, then into the long beam assembly with pan screws. Repeat this for the other large roof panel assembly. Once all roof to beam brackets have been attached with pan screws, go back and attach with hex bolts. At this point in the assembly, go back and make sure to tighten all of the bolts on both large roof panel assemblies. To place the peak cap assembly on your unit, you will need 3 people and 2 ladders. Slide the peak cap on edge across the top of the roof panels and line up the bolts with the holes on the roof assembly. Once the bolts are aligned, flip the peak cap over, making sure each of the carriage bolts are hanging down through the holes. It can be helpful at this point in the assembly to loosely attach a peak bracket and peak loop onto one of the middle carriage bolts to help keep the peak cap in place. The peak cap will get secured later in the assembly. Have 3 people lift a left corner roof assembly over the top of a long beam assembly so it sits to the left of the large roof assembly. Have the person in the center push up on the peak cap so the panel can easily slide underneath. Once the panel is in place, attach it to the large roof panel with hex bolts. Repeat this for the right corner roof assembly. Attach the roof panel to the roof to beam bracket with pan screws, installing the screw into the rafter first and then into the beam. Repeat this process for the other corner roof assemblies. Finally, go back and tighten all of the bolts in the corner roof assemblies. When attaching the small roof panels, have 3 people lift the roof panel up and over the short beam assembly and have the person in the middle push up on the peak cap so the panel can easily slide underneath. Using hex bolts, loosely attach the small roof panel to the corner roof assemblies. You may need to have the person in the center push up on the roof panels to help align the holes. Once holes are aligned, tighten all bolts. Repeat this for the second small roof panel assembly. It is important to get the roof placement just right. If necessary, push up on the peak to ensure a tight fit. Next, loosen the screws on the roof edge at one corner. Now you can lift the roof edge just enough to insert a wood screw into the end of the fascia beam assembly. Repeat at the other side to insert a wood screw into the second fascia beam assembly. Place a corner cap where the fascia assemblies meet at one corner. Push up on the corner cap to make sure it's tight to the bottom of the assemblies, then attach with 2 sheet metal screws on each side. You can push up on the roof edge slightly to access the top holes. When you are done, retighten the screws in the roof edge on both sides. Repeat to install corner caps at each corner of the gazebo. Remember to remove the plastic film from both sides of a ridge cap just before you are ready to install it. If the ridge cap does not slide on smoothly, add a few drops of liquid soap on the inside of the cap before reinstalling. It may also help to have someone push up on the middle of the roof assembly. If the ridge cap still won't go on, or an obstacle is blocking it, try bending the ridge clip up on one side. Hook one side of the ridge cap over the bent side, then push down on the other side until it catches. Slide the ridge cap on and have someone push up on the peak cap so the ridge cap can slide underneath it. Then push down to bend the ridge clip back into place. Next, remove the roof screws from each ridge edge left, ridge edge middle, and ridge edge right at the location where the corner roof assemblies meet the large roof assembly. Place a roof edge center so it sits tight to the ridge edges and the holes align. Then reinstall the previously removed roofing screws. At the connection of each corner roof assembly and large roof assembly, slide a ridge cap middle over the ridge caps. You will need someone to push up on the peak cap from inside the unit so the ridge caps can slide underneath. Once in place, attach with screws. To make it easier to install the peak loop, place a piece of tape over the nut, that way it doesn't fall out during installation. Place two roof peak brackets onto the carriage bolts at each end of the roof assembly. Make sure they fit over the rafter corners, then attach the peak loop and tighten. Use pan screws to attach the roof peak brackets to each of the rafter corners. Next, place a peak bracket over the remaining carriage bolts. Attach the peak loop and tighten. If you placed a peak bracket and peak loop onto one of the carriage bolts when assembling the roof, now is the time to ensure it is tight. Place a tie wrap bracket tight to one end of a tie so that the ends fit tightly together. Attach the tie wrap bracket with one pan screw through the hole closer to the middle of the tie. Now get a helper to hold the tie in place against the rafters so that it is level. Attach the tie to both sides of each rafter with the appropriate hardware. Pre-drill through the other hole on the bottom edge of a tie wrap bracket and attach with a pan screw. On the remaining two ties, attach a double tie wrap bracket RT and double tie wrap bracket LT to each end. Make sure the flat side of the brackets are on the same side of the tie and that brackets fit tightly. Then attach with a pan screw through the hole closer to the middle of each tie. Now get a helper to hold the tie in place so that it's level and the flat side of the bracket faces out. You want to make sure the bent side of the double tie wrap bracket sits tight to the middle rafter on the large roof assemblies. Attach the tie to both sides of each rafter with the appropriate hardware. Pre-drill through the other hole on the bottom edge of the tie wrap bracket and attach with the pan screw. On the inside of each post, measure 4 inches down from the top and make a mark. Place the bottom of a 45-degree twist bracket at the mark, then attach to the post and corner rafter with pan screws.
Do not attempt this in windy or gusty conditions. You will need 4 people and 3 step ladders to attach the roof panels to frame in step 11. Place an 8-foot ladder in the center of the frame assembly and the other 2 on the either side of the beam assembly as seen here. Have 2 people carry over 1 roof panel assembly with roof to beam brackets and pass it to the other 2 people standing on ladders. Make sure that 1 person always remains at the center to support the peak of all the roof panel assemblies. Note, the center roof to beam bracket on each of the roof panel assemblies must line up with the center of each beam assembly. As 1 person continues to hold up the roof panel assembly at the center, move the second roof panel assembly with roof to beam brackets into place next to the first one. Make sure the corners of the roof panel assemblies are flush and the roof rafter corners are flush together. Then, starting at the bottom, connect the 2 roof panel assemblies with 3 hex bolts. If the corners or bolt holes are not perfectly aligned, have the person in the center push up on one or more of the roof panel assemblies to adjust the center height while another helps to align the corner. When everything is lined up, a third person can tighten the bolts starting at the bottom and working towards the peak while the other two hold the roof panel assemblies in place. Repeat this with the third roof panel assembly with roof-to-beam brackets. Remember to ensure all roof-to-beam brackets are lined up with the center of your beam assembly. The last roof panel is the most challenging piece to install. This step will require extra time to make any necessary adjustments and ensure correct installation of the roof. When lifting the last roof panel assembly without roof-to-beam brackets into place, the person at the center needs to push up on the peak loop to lift the peak cap and make room for the fourth roof panel assembly to be slid into place. You may have to shift and wiggle the assembly to get the fourth roof panel to fit into place. Just as in previous steps, remember to have the center person push up on one or more of the roof panel assemblies while others help to align the corners, and the last person tightens the hex bolts. In Step 14, Part 3, have a helper lift the roof panel on the outside to allow the roof-to-beam bracket to be easily set in place before attaching it to the roof panel assembly. If the fourth roof panel does not fit, check or try the following. Make sure the roof-to-beam brackets have not been installed on the fourth roof panel. If they are, remove them, please. Loosen the 6 hex bolts installed in Step 11 that attach the first 3 roof panels together. This will allow the person in the center to make more adjustments to the first 3 roof panels. Refer to Step 7 and Step 9. Ensure that all parts to the roof rafter assembly are flush and that the roof panels are flush and do not overhang the roof rafter corners right and left. Refer to Step 4 and 5. Ensure all measurements from the colored insert are met and all posts and beams are level and square. When securing the roof corners in Step 15, have someone push up on the peak of the roof to ensure a tight fit at each corner and all roof-to-beam brackets are lined up over the center mark and are flush and tight to the beam assemblies. When everything is lined up, have another helper attach the roof panel assemblies together at each fascia beam end and then attach the roof to post brackets. On each corner, install the ridge cap over the ridge clips with the cut end leading and slide the ridge cap up towards the peak so it fits under the peak cap as directed in Step 19. If there is an obstacle in the way that prevents you from sliding the ridge cap from the end, the cap can be clipped on partway up the ridge clip. To do this, bend the ridge clip up on one side and hook the ridge cap onto it. Push down until it catches the other side of the ridge clip, then slide the ridge cap the rest of the way up so it fits under the peak cap. Push down on the ridge cap to bend the ridge clip snug to the roof before fastening with screws. To adjust the roof peak when tightening, you can turn the carriage bolt until it sits square on the roof.